a lot of people see the wins but don't understand like the necessary hard work it took to get those wins all the time. See us like, oh, since 2020 they've been crushing it, but like, I was in working 40 hours on coding, 40 hours on top of a full-time day job for 4 years before we saw any money.
Welcome back to the Prosper Brief, where we explore the ideas, innovations, and individuals shaping the future of the food service and hospitality industry. I am your host, Jeremiah Wynn, and today we have a very special episode. We're sitting down with Anthony Edwards Jr., the co-founder of EatOkra, the groundbreaking app that connects users to Black-owned restaurants across the country, fostering both community and commerce. In this episode, Anthony shares the origin story behind EatOkra, the fears he had to face, the people who believed in him and those who didn't, and the weight of building a purpose-driven business rooted in culture, identity, and innovation. Let's dive in.
What would you do if I told you that the difference between good and great when it comes to customer service and leadership isn't this massive overhaul, but it's indeed a game of inches? I'm Ryan Leake, and at Accelerate, I'm going to be bringing you the game of inches, 6 rules for winning in customer service and leadership. Success in business and leadership isn't about making this giant leap. It's about making small, consistent moves that I believe separate the best from the rest. And in our session together, we're going to be breaking down 6 game-changing rules that are going to help you build stronger relationships, exceed expectations, and lead with impact. You're going to walk away with knowing a few things. Number one, you're going to walk away with knowing how to create unforgettable customer experiences. Secondly, you're going to learn the leadership habits that truly drive lasting success. And thirdly, you're going to learn some small moves that I believe turn ordinary into extraordinary. If you want to win, not just today, but every day, this session is for you. Join me at Accelerate and let's close the gap between where you are and where you could be, 1 inch at a time. We'll see you there.
Anthony, man, it's so good to have you on here. How are you doing?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me. I've been listening to the pod, so definitely excited for my turn
Oh,
to
thank
get
you,
on
man.
and spit some knowledge or wisdom or experiences, whatever it is we want to get out of today. I'm happy to share.
No, I love it. One thing that I love about our format is that everything is theme-based. So we're really trying to get takeaways for the audience to implement into their own careers and their journeys and stuff like that. And with EatOkra, you guys have so much experience within the last, what has it been like? Almost 9-10 years almost, right?
Yeah. EatOkra started in 2016. It was really, it's a hobby project turned passion project turned like, oh snap, we can make money doing this and just figuring that piece out. And then from there, like from 2020, it's when we incorporated, it's been off to the races, so we've gotten a lot of popularity and, really done things to help a lot of businesses across the country. So
That's dope. Has it been easy for you to continue to allow it to be passion-filled and passion-driven? Or once you turned it into a business, does it kind of complicate that?
business complicates it because it kind of takes me out of the creative. It took me out of the day-to-day things I was just normally used to. I'm tech forward kind of a person, so I'm a creator. My passion is to create and solve problems. So, EatOkra allowed me to solve the problem of helping people find Black-owned restaurants and food experiences across, United States. And so I kind of had to put a different hat on at some point and really step into that CEO mindset, the C-suite mindset, just discover a lot of things that I didn't know, so it's just a lot of, I don't know if it's ignorance or just, just net new things that oh, I didn't know that was possible or that was a thing or I had to think about this, there was no business model for me to kind of follow. And frankly, I never even thought about a business model. I just wanted to build something cool that I could use that turned out a lot of other people that millions of other people across the United States were trying to do too. So, um, I still have passion for the project and still create. So I still find love in writing code, especially to, bring what's in my head, put what's in my head into reality. And yeah, so I still find time for passion, but it's harder to get there, considering I now have a child from back in those days too. So my daughter's turning 6. going into the first grade next year. So, just balancing that, balancing being a husband and married and dealing with, family time and friends. And there's a lot of things to, try to have what they call work-life balance. It's tough as an entrepreneur,
Absolutely.
building something from scratch.
Absolutely, man. There's like a lot of things I can touch on because me, I'm a father, a husband. I have 3 kids. My 5-year old, she's about to start kindergarten soon, and I have an 11-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old. So I totally understand, man, just that balance. And for me, because I work with Prosper, but I also have a production company on the side where I do different projects and stuff like that. And it's always just being led by passion, and I love that my job is creative. The fact that this is my job, working, talking to you, podcasting, doing the video editing and all that stuff. It's definitely like really enjoyable. The one thing that I've realized is, it's almost like the more passionate you are about a project, the more that it pushes you forward, and the finances are going to come, the profits are going to come. As long as you stay engaged and you start with the passion and with the purpose, everything else comes after. But I feel like this generation, we get so hyped up on like what we see, and we may see this guy with a Lamborghini pushing this new product or saying you can make $15,000-$20,000 a month doing this. And when you lead off with the money, it kind of when the money is a passion, it doesn't work because the money doesn't come that fast. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the passion can always be there. So it's dope that even with you being the CEO level at this point, you're still finding passion in the coding. Like I really love that, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of people see the wins and but don't understand like the necessary hard work it took to get those wins all the time. You know, see us like, oh, since 2020 they've been crushing it, but like, I was in working 40 hours on coding, 40 hours on top of a full-time day job for 4 years before we saw any money. So that I don't know. I think that knocks that that touch point you were talking about. I was building that. I was that coder um, in the basement, having my computer wherever I go. If I go to a family member's house or I'm going to a family cookout, I always have my computer with me. And if you know me, you know that it's always with me. I'm always ready to like knock something out, but and be productive. But yeah, I mean, it took a long time to get here.
I
You
love
know,
that because that's the side of the story that a lot of people don't really understand. Because they think when you want to be an entrepreneur, that means I'm just going to be my own boss. I don't want to answer to nobody. I don't want no accountability. I'm ready to do me. But even with me, right? So I have a production company on the side. But like 2 years ago, I had my production company. I started it and I had a job at a church and I was Uber driving 12 hours a day. So 20 hours of my day was dedicated to other projects. And then I had like an hour and a half to 2 hours to edit a podcast, film, do this. And I was sleeping like an hour a day, literally.
yeah,
So it was extremely exhausting and it was like a very tough season. But that's what it takes. And a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, we're messing up ourselves because we put so much pressure on getting finances because we don't have a daytime job while we're getting our business up.
yeah.
Having a daytime job, a 40-hour a week job, it actually does enable you to keep the focus of your personal business on the passion and the purpose of it and not, choke the passion and force things to try to get money super quick.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely puts a lot of pressure on people. And it's really, I went full time when the role demanded me to go full time, and then and then gracefully at that time, the finances made sense too from what we were getting to EatOkra that I can now transition and still keep that same standard of living that we wanted, my wife and I wanted. So, but if you try to push that too early, or make decisions too early that just gonna like be like opt into too many subscriptions too early to fulfill your business rather than just sticking with like Excel sheets, or whatever. Just as an example, we buy all these services that it starts to like really like wear at you that repeat revenue that you keep having to give out versus like building things yourself that you can maintain. But yeah, I mean, what's meant for you is going to happen in time, and some things you just can't rush it, but you can rush it. Then it always just backfires. It always just like comes back because you weren't ready for that moment that you kind of forced yourself into, know? And so I've had to learn like, certain things that I've wanted to get recognition for or recognition at, um, or be on certain stages, they're just not meant for me yet. I'm not ready for those moments. even though I want it now, it'll happen. I'm not gonna force other people to cover me or really try to push my way. At some point you do need to like have a little bit more of push, but it also comes in time when you're ready for it.
So, do you, with what you're doing, right? Do you have milestones, and how do you segment that? So, what's your 3 month goal? What's your 1 year goal? What's your 5 year goal?
I'm not very great at having like a lot of my. I mean, I set milestones at the beginning of every year. We're trying to get to 1 million downloads, and we're trying to get to uh, about 50,000 monthly recurring users coming back to the platform. So we set milestones like that, and then also trying to set new people registering on EatOkra milestones. So we set them. We could definitely do a better job revisiting those milestones quarterly and monthly, but like I don't know, I'm an entrepreneur and I get just like a restaurant owner get tied up into like the day to day of the business that I don't get a chance to like look at the data all the time and be so focused, but trying to pull out of that.
Yeah. Right. Because, I mean, how can you measure what's happening if you're not, being intentional with that stuff? Right. And I feel like
Right.
with me and my home, like me and my wife, that's one thing that we started doing a lot is just having these weekly meetings about our finances because we'll have money and then also we don't have money in certain areas and like what's going on. And then when you get that, when you're confused about it, it's like, oh, that's because we spent money here or this we didn't
Yeah.
save here. So that's one thing that I'm trying to get a lot better at too, which is
Yeah, my
like,
wife and I, we actually started doing that too. We kind of slacked the last month, but for a minute we were really really strong at just finding an hour a week, and just like putting it on the big TV and putting the spreadsheets out there and just seeing where our savings going, how much do we spend on food this month. That's like our
yeah,
biggest
of
expense
course,
right now.
same,
It's
same, bro.
food. It's like how are we
Yeah.
spending so much on food? We need to cook more, but
Man, we can cook, we'll grocery shop, and we'll still go out. Like, bro, I'm a foodie. Like, when I went to Eat Okra, your conference last year, the culinary creatives, bro, I almost moved to New York, bro. I was like, man, this is how they be eating out here. I'm like,
man, New
man,
York, you
bro,
could just stay in a borough. You ain't even got to leave Brooklyn or leave
man,
Manhattan or go to
yeah,
Harlem. Stay there for a long time and go to the Bronx. They got some
yeah,
spots.
man,
Then we
bro,
still gotta go to Long Island, Jamaica,
yeah,
Long Island, Long Island City, Staten Island. I mean, you can just stay in a borough for a whole year and not hit everything.
man, that's
There's
crazy.
so much
Yeah,
options.
don't tempt me, bro. Like, we trying to get better at our finances. So I do have a list of questions, and I think we have a pretty solid starting point. But yeah, like I'm just really great to have you here, man. My first question for you though is, what was your favorite meal growing up? What was your favorite meal to eat?
Favorite meal to eat. My mom used to make this meal with I forget what she calls it. She hasn't made it in a very long time, but she would crumble up. Man, it's gonna come to me. I'm really upset and I can't think of this meal. But I'm a pizza guy. Ultimately, I
Mm-hmm.
drive anywhere for pizza, good pizza,
Okay.
cheeseburgers. I'm a standard African American child. My grandmother, she made pastas, and I just grew up just hating pasta as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? What kind of pasta was she making?
It was like Chef Boyardee type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was, it's
You
just
know
a
what?
first in my head, and I'm just not a fan of like ground beef and
Yeah.
pasta anymore.
I can't judge you because we ate spaghetti every single week growing up. When I got married and moved out, I did not eat spaghetti for like 4 years. I was like, I am done with spaghetti, bro. Like, man, and yeah. So I get
Yeah.
it.
So I don't know. I really didn't have a great like. I wouldn't consider myself a foodie. I think now I'm coming into like more of like being a
Okay.
foodie. Like 8 years into being into almost 10 years into being the founder of Eat Okra. I'm just now I think starting to consider myself a foodie. But I like good food. Like now I'm putting. My family didn't introduce us to
Yeah.
much stuff like things that I like now would be like olives. I like olives now. I like what's the small cabbages?
The small cabbages.
Yeah, the
Um, Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like Brussels sprouts cooked now.
Yeah.
I'm putting now I feel like I'm an adult now. I'm putting
Yeah,
actual like toppings on my pizza outside of like veggies on my pizza outside of the normal meat
yeah,
pizzas. But like I go to this one spot here in Brooklyn, and we put literally almost whatever they have on the menu on the pizza. So there's like artichokes, there's peppers and
yeah,
onions and spinach, and it's just so
yeah,
good. Like I finally feel like, oh, these are what flavors are.
yeah.
And so
It's
we didn't
so
really have a lot of that kind of like cooking, a lot of soul food cooking, but
yeah.
um, wasn't really introduced to a lot of foods that I eat now.
It's so interesting, and I kind of want to unpack that even before we get into our questions. I know we're like talking 15 minutes, but for me too, it was the same thing where it's like with I feel like with soul food, it's like we take basic things, season it up, make it taste really well. And for like, my wife, she's Mexican. I remember when I first met her, she made this dish for me called morisqueta, and all the things that she was using were like herbs, vegetables, like she only would ever use like ground pepper, right? No, not ground pepper. She would use like garlic salt and like some pepper. But all the flavors that they were used to enhance, like arugula, cilantro, like all those different things, it made all this dishes so flavorful. And I realized like it's interesting because I know like back in the slavery days, right? They gave us the worst piece of it, like the chicken. Nobody wanted the chicken. So we got the wings of the chicken, and that's how we ended up having fried chicken. Now it's taking on this whole new identity, especially since the '80s. But like we for soul food, it literally was just let's work with what we got. So we do have like a lot of seasonings. So what, in your opinion, right? Especially what you're doing with Eat Okra, why do you think it is that Black people have like a more limited range of foods that we eat, especially growing up?
Yeah, I think a lot of those reasons. We just grew up with our parents were cooking for us, and that was it. It wasn't much exploring. Price has a thing to do with it, and it's just not hasn't been our culture. Coming from, originating in Africa, coming to the South. It's just my family specifically, growing up, and those things that you're talking about as just us being given the scraps and having to make delicacies out of them is really why we call the conference that you attended the Culinary Creatives Conference, because we've always had to be creative with our food when given the scraps. So yeah, I mean, we've come a long way in how we prepare our food and think about farm to table. So yeah, I mean,
Okay, so let's get to these questions, bro, because I got a lot of questions that I want to get into, just as far as what our topic is going to be today. Okay, so so what sparked the initial idea for Eat Okra, and what personal need were you trying to solve?
so the personal need, I think, is where we start with, and that was moving to New York City. My wife being from the Bronx, we moved in together to Brooklyn, and that's net new for both of us. So it was just, where do we find our people at? Where are they eating at? Where are the black owned restaurants? Where's the comfort food, familiar food that we grew up with? Outside of the main popular ones that everyone knows about and goes to. We wanted to find that corner spot that nobody's thinking about. So me coming fresh out of the army, so pretty much fresh out of the military, and going to school and getting my computer science degree at Fordham. Did some time at a coding boot camp, and then was working full time as a full stack engineer. I was just, always trying to build something. I was looking to build something that was really supposed to get me to the next job, not become a CEO, but it was meant for me to just build something that I could use to leverage in my resume to get the next job. And so, my wife was like, "Why don't you build an app for us to find black-owned restaurants?" At the time, that really didn't exist. There might have been another few other players that had tried it. Not to my standard. Did I like the app that was built? And then, we had Yelp, we had Foursquare. None of them had specific tags or categories as black owned. So it was just hard to find a black owned business in those apps. And so, we went out. The model was pretty much set. I just really had to just build it in my own way, my own creative way, and have our own like, UX UI UX experience while doing it. And so yeah, it was pretty easy. Once my wife said, you should build that, it was like, all right, off to the races.
I gotta stop you, bro, because it's not easy. Like you're making all this sound super easy, but it's like super impressive that she could just say, "Hey, why don't you just create an app that allows you to do this?" And the fact that you're capable of doing it is like that's really impressive, bro. That's dope.
Yeah, I mean, I never built a mobile app previous to that. So EatOkra is really my first stab at creating an app, and but I built it twice. I built it in two different languages and or frameworks, and the second one was just a better product than the first one. The first one was pretty solid too, though. I got some good things, but it just didn't meet my standards. So redid it again, and just in time to get for everything to like really happen to EatOkra after that. But yeah, no, it's definitely not easy. We were just talking about that 75% easy work. The last 25 is that hard part that's really going to try your patience and test if this is something you really should be doing, or like you have a passion to continue to do. And so luckily I had that passion and that grit, because there were times when I was trying to get this thing out the door, and I had to wait months, weeks, days, hours to like solve problems or wait for things to be updated, um, to get the full experience I was looking for. And so, I had to have a lot of aha moments to get it completely done, because there was a lot of like, there's no roadmap to really building a full app when you're trying to getting into the app stores and getting, all these things connected, and the maps got to work, and no network. What happens when there's no network connection? There's so many like things that you don't think about when you want to build something. It's just all those like those error handling, and that's like the worst part. Not everything is a happy path. It's the not happy path that caused the most headaches and sleepless nights.
Absolutely. So I got to ask you. So my wife, right? So I make music. I produce, mix, write, rap, sing, master, everything.
Right.
Like she can leave me in this room, and then she'll have like I can have an EP out. So because of how like natural and how much work I've been putting in the last 15 years, to her it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, right? Because she's like, oh, like that's just what Luke does. So with you being able to create these apps and do this stuff, right? Like having that type of a skill set, are the people around you, do they really understand the depth of what you're doing? Or is it more like, oh, that's nice? Like, do they get it?
My tech buddies and gals get it. They understand the like what it takes to get out. So my more like closer friend group does, but I'd say my military friends probably don't understand. And then my family for sure does not get it. Did not get it for a very, very until very recently did they get like what I was building, or how big it had gotten, or how important it has been to a lot of people. Once they see these awards coming, they're like, "Whoa, well, what is the thing you've been building again? What's that thing you were raising money for? Again, tell me about it." So more and more they're like understanding the gravity of what's happened.
How has their lack of understanding affected you in your drive?
Hasn't affected me because
That's good.
hasn't affected me. I'm gonna do what I do anyways.
Yeah, same. I'm the
I
same
see
exact way.
I see. Yeah, I'm just built to like see my vision into fruition, and then
Exactly.
make sure a lot of people use it, or
Yeah.
hopefully a lot of people use it. But no, I wouldn't say it's been a fight, because there was like, why are you working so much? Stop working so much. You need to not work and just chill out and take a vacation and not think
Yeah.
about work. So it's been a fight to balance to fight. Find that balance with the family.
Yeah.
Always wanting me to be more present, which is probably
Yeah.
has been a problem, but
But
I don't know. I'm learning to be better present in
yeah.
certain situations, I think. But yeah, I'd say that's like the biggest fight is just you need
Yeah.
to not be working so much.
And I think that's the problem too, right? Because you don't have the blueprint for what you're trying to do, and they definitely don't have the blueprint. So for them to just say, "Oh, why are you working so much?" Like they don't really understand the vision and what it takes to get to where you're trying to take it to. And it's almost like to a certain point, you do have to make certain sacrifices. Like just recently, like a couple weeks ago, like it was Mother's Day, and me and my wife were in two different cities, and she understood, yo, I have stuff that I have to do out here. Like So it is that give and take and that understanding of, you know, this is my vision, this is our goal. We're collectively trying to go to a particular place, right?
Hmm.
With the family who wanted to be more present, is it your wife or is it external family, your siblings, parents, cousins, that kind of thing?
My mom's the most vocal probably
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
Most vocal. My wife definitely, as well as is still understanding. I think the full entrepreneurial process of it, even though she's my
Yeah. She's
co-founder.
a, yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff, especially on the tech side. There's just so many steps to it that it's just not always it's not always you got to test it, you got to write it, you got to think
Mm-hmm.
about the architecture, you have to test it again, you have other people use it
Yeah.
and just continue to find bugs, and then you're designing for like 20 different screens
Yeah.
now because we have so many different devices, and
Yep.
so there's just so many variables to like putting anything out. I'd say ChatGPT has definitely helped speed up a lot of my coding so I can get a lot more work done in less time, which has been
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, I still struggle a bit at times to be a little bit more present. But it's something I'm working on. But
Yeah.
there is, it's season that there's some moments and times where I got to hit this deadline.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just never going to get out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So
And then
being, oh,
vision. So we've got to, hit our timelines.
do you have mentors who you can look to who are kind of like helping you understand the scope of what it takes to be a CEO and establish a successful business?
Yeah, I joined the Gentleman's Factory, gosh, about like 5 years ago now. But that group has been really, really influential in my progress or growth as a CEO.
Can you
Um, so
tell us
I,
about that? What is that?
so Gentleman's Factory is a group of professional individuals who are entrepreneurs or career employees at big companies. But it's just a group of men, and we meet. We have a lot of conversations. There's a meeting place where we can just gather anytime we want, as well as programmed things, and we just have great conversations about everything but sports and music,
Mm-hmm.
and just really find partnerships, be creative together, collaborate. And I met my mentor there as well, and so from there we've done some things together, continue to work on new things. We've done some integrations together, so
That's
yeah,
cool.
it can be great if you put yourself into these groups and actually like show up
Yeah.
and offer your support as well. But no, it's been great to be part of this community because it's definitely helped me fully understand like what I'm getting into a bit, and then
That's good.
also have just an outlet of group of people to talk to when I need it.
Okay. So you're at one end, excuse this term, but you're kind of like a nerd, right? You're a tech nerd. You love just computer stuff, zoning in on your stuff. And then so it seemed like you're an introvert. No? Are you an extrovert or an introvert? And how has that affected you as a CEO?
Someone said, I asked somebody that question one time, and they were like, "You are you have presence in the room, but you're not necessarily an extrovert nor an introvert." So I think I sit somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm somewhere, and I feel like that's me. I'm definitely someone who's you're aware that's there, but you're not. I'm not necessarily the loudest person in the room or the most networking person to just go talk to anybody like in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's been my answer to that.
How has that affected your leadership?
Um, how has that affected my leadership? I think it's definitely there are times I feel like where I should be a little bit more vocal, a bit more stern
Mm-hmm.
about. I'm a Libra also, so I come with this calm, cool, collective mentality. Like everything's great all the
Yeah.
time, or very balanced.
Yeah.
So at times I definitely feel like there are times where I could have been more stern or more direct about my expectations,
Mm-hmm.
and been more straightforward about. Yeah, I guess I'm repeating that, just being
Yeah.
having stronger expectations for people and really making sure that we hit our goals in time. So
Yeah.
I think I still struggle with that a bit too. So letting people go earlier
Yeah.
has not letting people go fast enough has been a problem too. I think not letting
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
say
what?
hire fast, like fire hire slow, fire fast, or I think it
Yeah,
goes
yeah, yeah.
something like that.
That sounds right. Yeah,
Definitely has been something, just growing pains. I think as just any entrepreneur, everyone
yeah,
says that, but it's hard to let people go. They depend on you for thing. You made a relationship together, so
yeah.
that has been trouble. And I think my mentality or personality has had a factor in that.
What do you think? Okay, so the type of people that you are hiring, right? Where do you find these people? Are they coming from relationship that you built naturally, which makes it hard to fire them, or they're, you pretty much hired them from a resume, and that's like, what do you think?
Yeah, most of my hires have come from people, friends of friends, or just in network have been following us for a while and reached out, built a relationship, and then they started working. So a lot of
Yeah,
them have been a bit closer versus like resume. I like you. I interview you. I hire
gotcha.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Which there is a very big difference in how you can approach the kind of conversations, those difficult conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting too because like for me, like my dad, and I think I told you this in Chicago. My dad has an app. We've always done like family-owned businesses, and we've always worked with my dad and stuff like that. So this is like the naturally built-in camaraderie where it's like you really can't fire your kid or your sibling, but you can just yell at them and scold them. And
Yeah.
at this point, with what I'm doing here in Arizona, along with working with Prosper, like with my production company, I realized that when it comes time for me to lead people, because I am so trusting and I do have I'm very loyal. I'd almost like rather just do everything myself so that I'm not going to end up being pissed off at you and
Yeah.
firing you versus hiring somebody with the potential of you getting on my bad side. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I have to work on as we continue to scale our business and stuff. That's definitely we're gonna have to cross that road at some point. But yeah, so I get it. Like when it comes to your personality with being a leader, it's a lot that you have to learn and a lot of triggers that you do have to learn to pull.
Hmm.
At this rate, right, with where you guys are going in the last 5 years, do you feel like you're at a good place to where you are going to be more comfortable letting people go sooner, or are you still working through that?
Still working through that, but I'm definitely more comfortable than I was.
And I could see why, right? Because I'm sure the culture that you guys kind of want, like everything is about soul food, right? There's soul in it, there's heart, like it's relational. So I can see that. So what kind of culture do you try to have in your workspace within Eat Okra that you kind of like would like to flow with?
Yeah, I like the team to, always making sure we have a good culture fit with all the members. Like everyone can talk to each other, everyone can relate in some way. Um,
Do you guys have like the core five, whether it be purpose, vision, integrity? Like, do you guys have a list of different things that you guys kind of like can always go back to?
yeah, I mean, we have a vision statement and our brand values and stuff like that. I wouldn't say we like go through it every week or month even. It's more there, but I think everyone just understands like what the mission of this company is, and it's not something I need to like. They get it naturally. We don't have to like bury in our heads like this is the vision, the mission, all the things. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just like to build a relationship that's just open, one on one, as a open tables. So whatever you need to talk to me, I'm happy to have additional conversations. It's one of responsibility and trusting you to do what you say you're going to do for me, and I just want to like to just have like a well balanced team together that will hold each other to a standard as well, and but while also still being friendly, and not everything is we're business, but I want to make sure there's time for us to actually like be human to human with each other too, to understand each other's like days and pain points, and just making sure that we're always connected so that I know that if something in your life is going on, we can consider that and I can give you grace when needed.
Okay. So switching gears, what keeps you up at night? Like what's your biggest stresses or worries at this point in your career?
With any okra, I'd say we're still looking for more passive revenue, so just building product and getting the word out. I think my biggest pain point is just communication, more communication. To Because as a humble person, as myself, I'm not the first person to tell you like, yo, you just wanted James Beard, or I wanted James Beard, or I have an Apple award. The blue thing in my back is like an um, Apple Developer Award. They give 15 of those a year to people in the App Store. So that's like that's an Oscar right there for me. And now we're getting the James Beard, which is another Oscar in the food world. So it's just like I'm not somebody to just like start that. Start with me. Start with that in my title. You know, but I need other people to do that for me. So when I say that, I'm also thinking about just all the things that we do, all the restaurants are supporting, all the products that we're releasing, all like anything that has a line of communication or has something that we can talk about. I need that happening. So just how do we continue to deliver those messages across different channels to get people to pay us for our products or come back to the app for engagement? Because we are a B2B2C marketplace. So, and we have a chicken and the egg problem. We need customers on the app using it, and we need restaurants to sign up. They both have to kind of like grow together. And, so the restaurants need to see value in us and that we're able to bring new restaurants, new digital customers to them and put butts in the seats. So, building features that are going to do that is kind of like what's keeping me up as well. And then once we do that, like how are we making sure we're getting that message out to visit these restaurants, sign up and buy these tickets, you know, read these stories that we've done.
I want to go back to what you kind of said about just the being humble part. Within the next 5 to 10 years, right? As Eat Okra grows, obviously you're going to continue to have a bigger team, and obviously it's going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to do as much coding as you are doing just straight leading, directing, and all that, right? Do you feel like you in your head you have a game plan for you taking a step back from the coding aspect of it and just being more of the I did win this award. This is what we are. Being more of the spokesperson and salesperson for EatOkra.
Yeah, and I think that kind of touched on like that world of me getting more into a thought leader, being more getting into thought leader or just into other aspects and being like stronger partnerships or things like that is where I want to go to, and definitely looking for the more revenue so that I don't have to spend time doing the busy work of
Yeah,
coding right now.
yeah.
So that's definitely in the plan, and where I see the biggest growth for me is to definitely put myself a bit more out there and spend more time studying, understanding data, talking to more people, to form my own thoughts and opinions, and hopefully people start to pay me to speak at one sometime.
Yeah, that's the goal. How do you define success
um,
personally and for Eat Okra?
um, Gosh, that's tough. I mean, there's a financial success component. I think there's a fulfillment success
Hmm.
component to it, and then probably like external cues of success. And I think we've hit 2 out of 3 of those
Nice.
as being success, and that externally people love the product. We're getting awards, getting recognized for the impact we are doing within the community.
Yeah.
Um, and but I'm still working on that financial success. I think for us right now.
Okay. And then what about personally for you? What does success look like for, like in your personal life?
Um, I think success for a personal life is maintaining shelter, all the things for my family. We have a place to live, we have water, we have food, we can take trips and do things like that together. Um, and then I still have time for them. I'm not fully working
Yeah.
all the time, and I have time for them. So I feel successful in what I've been able to do with our family. So I
That's
think
awesome.
those things make me feel
That's
successful
good.
personally. And then personally, I feel like I've done a lot of stuff in my 40 years
Yeah.
on Earth. Having served in our military, been deployed to Iraq,
Wow.
served in the U.S. Air Force
Wow.
reserves. Got a computer science degree. Built EatOkra, and got various awards with that. So at one point I had a dance career, or
Really?
it wasn't
Let's
a
go into
career.
that. What is
It
that
wasn't a
like?
career, but I mean, it was the start of what could have been a very dope career too.
What kind of
Uh,
dance? What kind of dance was it?
so hip hop, trained in hip hop, modern dance. Took trained at Broadway Dance Center in New York City. A lot of my friends that I met in the program, as well as just taking classes with every day for like 2 years, are now dancing for like Rihanna and Beyonce.
Wow.
I once did a gig for Madonna early
Wow.
on after I did my internship at Broadway Dance Center,
Wow.
and did one other thing. But that was definitely a path for me to go down. Had I not got into coding in school, which kind of like see the pass fail. Am I
Yeah.
gonna like continue to go to classes? Or am I gonna fail this college class?
Yeah.
College semester. So, coding kind of took over for a little while in school. So I had to like double down on that, make sure I passed. Coming, 7 years in the army to back
Yeah.
into like a collegiate environment.
Yeah.
Catching up on all the math and all the things that I had
Mm-hmm.
missed, not been doing. So it's quite a little bit extra work. So
Yeah.
but I'm happy for the decision I made. I still love that world, and I go down rabbit holes watching just dance videos, and like
Yeah.
I know him. He used to be terrible back in the day. Now he's dancing behind Chris Brown.
That's crazy.
Crazy, you know.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are looking to get into the same space of creating an app that solves a problem?
I'd say do it. Be smart about it. Don't spend too much money too early. Um, Talk to a lot of people. Build a solid MVP that's like non technical version. Don't spend too much money early. I think is important. Definitely spend the money on mock-ups and having a nice designer put it together is why I think people should spend more money early on, and just weigh the options. Like, do I really need an app, a mobile app first? I try to like talk people out of building apps because it is a continuous expense. There's maintenance involved in having an app. It is timely. It's not $3,000. It's 20. Starting at 20. There are apps that you can get off the shelf, but you got to weigh that technical debt because at some point, you know, is that platform going to be able to serve 100,000, a million people a day using it, or whatever the goals are, or they're definitely going to hit limitations on optimizations, on being pixel perfect. As chefs and all the creatives in this space, really want their um, ingredients to be right. I want an ounce, not an ounce point two of sugar in my pastry or whatever. So you got to think about it that way. How granular do you want to be, and how comfortable are you going to be with that product, and can you deliver that MVP um, to your expectations? So weighing the pros and cons of where you start. Definitely have, if you're not technical, have somebody technical on your team um, that you can consult with, who can build it. But definitely do it. Go ahead and just try. I think everybody should try.
So, since you've been working on this 9 years, has it kind of been beneficial of the growth because you do have the infrastructure to support where you're at? Because I know if the app just blows up overnight, right? Like we're talking about, if you get 2 million people who are using it, isn't there a lot more cost with just the servers and all that stuff? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things do cost as more people come onto the platform. So now you're making a lot more API calls to external partners uh, that are giving you information or collecting information for you. So yeah, you definitely got to consider that. Yeah, and then definitely you need more servers to handle all the requests. So yeah, the price is linear as more people uh, join. So always figuring out how to cut those costs, or do things differently, or find another free service that I can plug into to like keep things down. But yeah, there's definitely a cost associated to getting more, acquiring more customers.
Would you say that? So, if I am like a young or I'm just now starting this business, it is good to like understand that it is going to be a slow process because it allows you to. It's a lot more forgivable, right? Because if all of a sudden your company blows up and the app can't support it and then it goes down for a week, now you just lost the momentum. Like, what would you say to people who are frustrated with the slow growth that they're having?
I think that's more the norm is the slow growth for one. So you're joining the club. uh, and two, I mean, I think that's a good problem to have that you've got a product that's so important that a million people overnight decided they need to use it. That's a good problem to have, and that's probably a great time to raise or find the right people who can get you back up very quickly. So going down because of scope or size is okay. I mean, we kind of experienced that for a little while. I had built stuff back in 2016 that leveraging that code that was good. 2020 we spiked. We had 1,200 people at one time trying to sign on into the app and create accounts, and we were dropping a lot of requests. And I just went back and looked at it. I was like, "Geez, Anthony, what were you doing when you built this code?" But it worked at a small scale. So at that point, when we really started to scale, we went from like 30,000 people had downloaded the app to 200,000 in a month. That was the first time I was like, oh, this is like what sort of scale means a bit, and so, I had to go out and upgrade our servers that we were using to, a more expensive version and things like that. So I had to recode some things, but I also had a lot of friends come in and help me out and step up because they knew like what we had built, they seen what's happening. And so, um, that's when I really started to get a lot more help. We went out and raised money for the first time at that point too. So, I think that's a great thing and if it goes down, hopefully you have a support system to get it back up, less quicker than a week. But, I think, certain things you rebuild or improve on when you have that scaled, people using your product.
Okay. Where do you see Eat Okra in the next 5 to 10 years?
So next month, July, we're actually expanding our platform we're growing across the pond. So we're gonna open the app in London and then Toronto. So I definitely see us into a lot more countries over the next 5 years. We're building rewards and loyalty into the app right now. So we're starting up with our MVP here, mostly in New York City, but it'll work across the United States. So, it's important, like that communication part for us to like let our partners know that they need to be putting offers into the app that allow people to get culture credits. We call it culture credits, points that they can redeem for more things that they can purchase or buy, in our marketplace. So I'm just looking forward to the next 5 years to continue to build things and be inventive, creative that are going to draw more eyeballs to the platform and bring more, put more butts in the seats of these restaurants across the country, across the world, not just the country.
Do you see yourself doing more like events and conferences and stuff like that as well within the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I really want my culinary creators conference to be like the it thing you need to go to every year. So definitely in the next 5 years, like we have a 3 day conference, you know, where we're having, 50 to 60 talks in a weekend. There's people are coming because the parties are going to be great after the conference, to unwind and continue to network. So it's to continue to drive that connection post conference, post each day's conference. I want to build that central place for the Black food community to come together, to learn, to celebrate, to educate, and you know, um, kind of help find people to meet you where you're at so that you're going to get to that next level and getting another wholesale deal. At our first conference, I'm still hearing about conversations that people got some big clients and wholesale deals on the floor, like on the spot. And I was just like, this is what this is about. People came with their notebooks ready, to gather these little gems that they're going to get and meet people one on one who they'd only seen on YouTube or on IG or something like that. So a lot of connections were net new and rekindling old relationships too. So those things are important. I really think that we have built a brand to really support that, especially over the next 5 years.
Nice. And I'm looking forward to going to the next one, man. Like I said, you're gonna make me move to New York. I have a couple more questions. With the current presidency and the way that DEI has like shifted the last like 6 to 8 months, have you felt a shift within like what you're doing with the soul food space and how many people use Eat Okra? Have you felt that?
The people who are using the okra continue to use Eat Okra. I mean, our partnership conversations have definitely almost come to a halt in certain ways. And then just the brands we've been working with are having different conversations or still figuring out their strategy, how they're going to continue to support, but not continue to support, or not frame it in the same language they were doing before. So, you know, we've dealt with a lot of like some of the biggest brands on earth, and there's a lot of pressure from the government for them to be toe to line on what they think on how they should be showing up for this community. It has been tough.
How have you
And
been navigating it?
um navigating, just getting back to the roots of having a business, which is getting repeat revenue through your customers. So for us, it's doubling down on, have we built the right product that restaurant owners are going to continue to pay us for it, right? As a marketing company, we're really a marketing company. So getting eyeballs on them and getting people to visit their website, go into their store, like that's for me, it's been more laser focused on that side of it these days, versus talking to partners so much.
Yeah, I get that. What is the legacy that you hope to leave with Eat Okra within the next 30 years?
I'd say I come from someone who has. So I'm gonna say. So I come from someone now with a troubled past. My mother had her addictions growing up. I come from a family that has had no one in tech. I've never had a Black teacher growing up. Growing up in upstate New York, so I never really had like real role models that were Black and in tech growing up. So I have one actually, but I never really understood what he did. But I knew he worked at IBM, and that was enough for me. But I think anybody can do it. I think some people are just naturally smart, and some people are just naturally hard workers that can still get them to the end goal. And I've been one of those people that are just hard workers. Hard workers. I'm not necessarily the smartest person. I just have the more experience that makes me seem smart. I just experienced a lot of things, and I just think with hard work we can do anything. In time, but it's everyone's process is different. Like the steps from A to Z aren't always going to be 26 characters. It might be 17 for some people to get there. So that's kind of how I think about it, and I just think everyone has their path and their process, but we all can all get to the same goal. Um, yeah.
No, thank you, man. So, Anthony Edwards Jr., thank you so much for being a part of the Prosper Brief, man. If you don't have the Eat Okra app, please download it. It's dope. I actually was looking at it this week, this morning before the call. And I'm like, cool. There's a couple spots I'm gonna hit up. But yeah, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me. This is fun. Great conversation.